Hi guys, how are you? How's everyone today? It's a beautiful Wednesday morning or Tuesday night, depending on where you are. So, welcome. So, today I just wanted to touch on anxiety. I've been getting a lot of questions on anxiety, and I've been getting a lot of questions about things that cause it. And of course there are so many things that can cause anxiety, from your neurotransmitters to issues you've had, traumas you've had, relationships you've got, past things that have gone on. But hormones also play a really huge role when it comes to how you feel, your emotions, how you interact in the world. And last week I talked a bit about oxytocin, and I talked about how oxytocin, low oxytocin, can actually make us feel a bit disconnected from the world, a bit isolated, like we don't want to socialize. And so today I wanted to talk a little bit about, I had a couple of questions about anxiety. And also panic attacks. And panic attacks and anxiety can go hand in hand, and they can go together. So I wanted to just touch on that today and just give you some insight and just give you a bit of an overview of how hormones can impact that. So the main hormones that we're looking at, the main female hormones we're looking at, are your progesterone, your testosterone, and your estrogen. Those three hormones together can play a huge role when it comes to anxiety, how you're feeling, if you're feeling calm, if other hormones are balanced, if you're having your menstrual cycle. But I just want to touch on estrogen being the main hormone coupled with low progesterone. So estrogen is a hormone that helps regulate your menstrual cycle. It helps regulate fertility. It helps with bone mass, with muscle growth. It helps with your process, your growth and your process and your aging, and all of those kind of different processes in the body and those cycles in the body. So it is a very important hormone, but due to life and due to exposure to toxins, exposure to chemicals, exposure to EMF rays, exposure to soy, exposure to pesticides, all of those different things, what's happening is we're getting that kind of estrogen dominant picture where we've got an elevated estrogen, and what that is essentially causing is it's causing hormones like progesterone to lower. And progesterone is our beautiful hormone. It's a hormone that's so yummy and lovely, and it makes us feel calm. It helps us to sleep. It relaxes our nervous system. It nourishes our thyroid. It helps with serotonin. It helps with all those beautiful endorphins. So essentially, progesterone makes us feel really good, really comfortable, happy around people, really good patience. We don't get agitated. Whereas estrogen, when we get that ratio out, estrogen can cause different symptoms. Estrogen can make us a little bit impatient. Estrogen can make us snappy. Estrogen can make us annoyed with people around us, particularly our partners. Estrogen can also cause things like we might get sore, painful breasts, or we might get constipation leading up to our period. We'll also get things like endometriosis, heavy, painful periods. So the low progesterone coupled with the elevated estrogen, when they are out of balance, is where the problem can occur. And this can occur anytime in our life, because estrogen doesn't have to be produced in the ovaries. Estrogen is a hormone that's divided into several different other hormones. Most importantly, we've got estriol, estrone, and estradiol. Estradiol is the hormone that's produced from our ovaries. That's what regulates our ovulation, regulates our menstrual cycle, regulates our fertility. Estrone is a hormone that can be produced in fatty tissue via aromatase. It can also be produced in the ovaries, and estradiol can also be converted into estrone when we are stressed or when our liver's not functioning properly. So we can be estrogen dominant from as young as 7, even younger we can be estrogen dominant. So don't think for one moment just because you're not having a menstrual cycle, you can't be estrogen dominant. A man can be estrogen dominant, a child can be estrogen dominant, and when we're postmenopausal, we can be estrogen dominant. So we can still have anxiety related to elevated estrogens. So I'm sorry, I was just reading a comment there. I got so it doesn't matter. We don't have to be going through our menstrual cycle. We can still be estrogen dominant. And I just need to. Left something on. Sorry about that. There was a noise coming. I had to turn something off. I left something on. That's all better now. I had to do that. So back. So at any time in our life, we can be estrogen dominant, and that estrogen dominant coupled with the low progesterone can cause these anxiety symptoms. And you'll know if your anxiety is related to hormone imbalance. Here's what happens. So during your menstrual cycle, you've got day 1. And most menstrual cycles go for that 28-day cycle. They might go 32, they might go 26, a bit longer, a bit slower. So day 1 is when you get your period. And generally your estrogen kind of levels out. But as we're coming up to mid-cycle, your ovulation, what generally happens around ovulation is you get that kind of spike. You can get that spike in estrogen. And if you've got low progesterone, your progesterone can level out and go lower. So you've kind of got this big gap. And what you need to do is you want to kind of like close that gap out, but that gap's quite big. What that gap can cause is it can cause a number of different symptoms, both mentally and emotionally, particularly ovulation, and then that latter half of your cycle leading up to the first day of your bleed. We've got symptoms like a tight chest and heart palpitations. So more heart palpitations in a tight chest. Symptoms like being overly anxious if you're driving your car somewhere, not actually being able to do smaller tasks or do intricate tasks like parking your car correctly, or being able to deal with more traffic on the road, being able to deal with those normal things. Those are little signs, and it would happen in that particular time. Some of us might be anxious about that all the time, but if you find that in that particular time in your cycle, you're feeling that kind of anxiety, that anxiety with driving, or that anxiety in public situations, or that anxiety where you've got to do a talk and you normally do a talk, but it's around that particular time, you feel overwhelmed, it's difficult dealing with what's going on around you. That's very much that estrogen kind of look with anxiety. You know, the hormones are shifting and you actually feel worse around that time. What you might get is in your solar plexus, you might get some palpitations there or a tightness in your heart area. What you may also experience is palpitations, more pulse palpitations. You've got palpitation, you've got you've got a pulse here. You might notice more palpitations here, or any other pulse palpitations going higher and going more over those few days. You may also experience poor sleep quality and more thinking. So when you're going to bed, you may also experience that just thinking, worrying. You know, you wouldn't normally worry about that bill you hadn't paid, but for some reason during this time it's keeping you up at night. So it takes longer to get to sleep, and you actually have more of a broken sleep. So you're feeling it physically, you're feeling that anxiety physically, and it's being triggered by things that may not normally would trigger it. Plus with the sleep, so the sleep is a biggie. You might, difficulty falling asleep. Thirdly, what you might experience is you might experience some more physical symptoms with pain or joints or muscles. So you might also find around this period, you might get more headaches, you might have more pain, a tight neck, and you might even have more of a tight jaw. So the jaw kind of seizes up as well. And that can be during that time in your cycle. And again, that can be due to elevated estrogen. When the estrogen elevates, what it does is it makes us more prone to pick up on pain. Our pain receptors are heightened, so we can feel that pain more. So we might, coupled with that kind of like underlying anxiety, you may also get more pain. So pain that time in your cycle. So we've got insomnia, we've got physical symptoms like pain, headache, jaw ache, grinding your jaw that particular time of the month as well. Also feeling muscle aches and pains. Let's turn that off. I thought I had turned it off. Muscle aches and pains and that kind of thing. Coupled with a sensation of feeling it in your solar plexus, feeling tight, maybe short of breath. You can't get your breath down there. Just feeling an underlying anxiety in your stomach. And it's coupled with that time. It's that time of the month. It's that time particularly when you're sort of ovulating, and then pre-periods, that time leading up to your period. So those are definitely the symptoms that you might get when you're estrogen dominant, when the estrogen's out of ratio with the other hormones, or when your estrogens are out of ratio with themselves. So that is what can be going on then. Secondly, with progesterone. So when we talk about progesterone, progesterone is a hormone that is produced in the ovaries. It's very much at the top of the hormone cascade. And so what happens is the progesterone is filtered down and it's turned into other hormones. It might be going over here to turn over to testosterone, to DHEA, or it might filter down here when we're stressed and turned into cortisol. So when the progesterone's low, it means we may not have enough hormone to turn into cortisol. So then we might get more metabolites, we might get more adrenaline, and that adrenaline can make us feel really amped up. But as I mentioned, progesterone is a very calming hormone, and it's very likely that if you're overstressed, that progesterone is low. What it causes is it causes that feeling of overwhelm with the anxiety, an inability to deal with situations. So a situation such as if you reversed your car out and you hit a lamppost, for instance. On a normal day, hey, c'est la vie. But when your progesterone is low, that hitting the lamppost is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. It's really big matter for you. It's kind of serious for you. So that is what can be going on there with progesterone. It's kind of those situations make you anxious, and it's kind of the end of the world for you, whereas normally you would be okay with it. So understanding the difference between the progesterone and estrogen levels is very important, especially if you suffer with anxiety. It's immensely important. There are so many other things, like I said, that can cause anxiety. We've got food intolerance, so wheat or dairy intolerance. We've got genetic anomalies like COMT, MTHFR, which can cause anxiety as well. We've got other things that could be going on, low zinc, low magnesium, other low nutrients, low vitamin D. And then, of course, there are external things that could be going on. And we've definitely got the environment like Wi-Fi rays and that kind of thing. But nutting out whether it's a hormone imbalance is very, very important, because just tweaking your hormones and, getting your hormones balanced can make a huge difference for anxiety. So what I want you to do is to figure out if you're suffering from anxiety, if you do suffer from panic attacks, the easiest way to figure out if it's a hormonal issue is to track. So track your cycle from day one. Day one is the first day of your bleed. Track your cycle. Track how it goes through the month and how you feel through the month. So what do you feel? What do you feel relaxed about things? Do you feel anxious about things? How does it go for you through the month? I want you to track that, because I want you to figure out if it is to do with your estrogen and progesterone, because if it is, there's actually a few simple fixes, and we can talk about those in a moment, but definitely track it. When it comes to time to have your ovulation, what's going on at ovulation? Are you feeling relaxed and happy? Are you feeling bloated? Are you feeling swollen? Have you got sore, painful breasts? Are you feeling moody? Are you feeling anxious? What's going on around ovulation? Then those 2 weeks then leading up to your period. Are you craving more foods? Are you extra hungry? Are you having to eat heaps and heaps and heaps? Are you constipated? Do you have diarrhea? Are you sleeping more than you would the first half of your cycle? What's going on? And track that. Also track your anxiety. I would give your anxiety out of 10. I would, how many is it out of 10? Is it 2 out of 10 today, which is good? Is it 10 out of 10, which is bad? Track that through your cycle and through the month to see how it's going. Once you get up to your period, what's going on then? How do you feel? Is your period heavy? Is your period light? Is your period painful? Is it dark brown blood? Is it red blood? How many days does it last? Do you have pain during your period in terms of a headache? Are you bedbound? Are you exhausted? Do you feel like you're a bit hypothyroid? What's going on actually on your period? Once you've tracked that month and you understand what your cycle is doing, that will give you an enormous insight into whether or not estrogen and progesterone are playing a part in your anxiety. You'll feel it and you'll understand, and you'll see it on paper. That cycle, you really feel it. Now, another hormone and other hormones that obviously can play a role, and they can change throughout your cycle. Cortisol changes throughout your cycle. Testosterone changes throughout your cycle. melatonin changes throughout your cycle and oxytocin changes throughout your cycle. But by tracking it, you can kind of see exactly what's going on, and what hormone might be causing it. If you're more testosterone dominant rather than estrogen dominant, you can be both. If you're more testosterone dominant, you might find that your cycle is longer. You have a longer cycle, 40 days, 42 days, and maybe you get ovulation pain. So you can track that. So no matter what hormone it is, if you track it, you can understand a little bit more what's going on and what hormone is affecting it. Now, if you're estrogen dominant and you want to sort that out, the first place you would look would be your environment. You know, do you have any are there any xenoestrogens in your environment? Are you eating too much soy? Are you taking the oral contraceptive pill? Because sometimes women react to the oral contraceptive pill because they're estrogen dominant. Do you have chemicals in your environment? Are you eating heavily sprayed food? You know, what's going on for you at the time that could be causing this kind of estrogen dominance? So once you've figured that out, my advice to you is actually just start cleansing, start restoring your liver, start looking after all of those things, because once you do that, you will actually start to excrete the estrogen from your body and help your liver and help your gallbladder to cleanse. The gallbladder is very, very important when it comes to removing estrogens that are no longer needed or wanted in your body. So working on your gallbladder, I would do, 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar a day in water. Hi Cheryl, hope you're good today. Oh, thanks for joining. For your gallbladder, I would definitely do 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar in water. And I do have a recipe for a bitter smoothie that is wonderful for the gallbladder. And I will share that with you guys because I feel really passionate about working with the gallbladder because we don't do enough of it, and the gallbladder is really important. And of course, if you don't have a gallbladder, then you just need to do more work on the liver. You need to help the liver to produce the bile, to remove the toxins, to remove the hormones, to go into your digestive system and excrete it all that way. So definitely bitter foods for the gallbladder, endive, rocket, lemon in water, apple cider vinegar in water, bitter vegetables like sauerkraut. So any of your bitters are going to really stimulate that gallbladder. Artichoke is a wonderful vegetable for the gallbladder. It really helps and nourishes the gallbladder. Asparagus as well also helps with cleansing estrogen. So make sure you're getting your 40 grams of fiber a day. Make sure you're getting your 6 cups of leafy green vegetables a day, because that is ultimately what's going to help you. And I would definitely try and get those vegetables that you're eating a lot of a day. I would try and get non-sprayed, or I try and get organic. Fiber as well is very important to excrete that estrogen out, get it out of the body. And then look at your environment, and definitely up to around 2 liters of filtered water a day. You want to try and get rid of chemicals as much as possible. So getting rid of the chlorine, getting rid of the fluoride, the ammonia that's in water is definitely very important. In some states, and I know I've mentioned this before, some states in Australia, they do put ammonia in the water, a type of ammonia salt, and that can mess up with your detox pathways. So make sure you use a water filter. So that's what you need to look at when you're getting rid of estrogen in your body. And then you can try some nice detox teas, like some dandelion tea is a really great way to stimulate the gallbladder, get the liver cleansing, and get everything out. So that would be the first place that you want to start. And then if you feel you need to get some work on progesterone, so if you need to work on progesterone, again, you feel anxious through your cycle, you may have sore, painful breasts, you may have low thyroid, you may have stubborn weight, you may have nodules on your thyroid, breast lumps or nodules on your breast. So that's a really good indication that maybe you need to work on your progesterone. Working on your progesterone is simple, and it's really doing stress relieving tactics like meditation, candle gazing, massage, making sure you've got all your B6 foods, so good quality meats, good quality organ meats, grains, non-gluten grains, and all your kind of leafy green vegetables for your B6. Really make sure you've got those going. And then anything that stimulates your pituitary, so anything where you're upside down. So doing a bridge, doing a plow, legs up against the wall, handstand, headstand. I can't do those. I put my head up against the wall. Anything that's stimulating the pituitary, even leaning forward and getting some pressure on the pituitary and then moving up, getting blood supply to this area, and being aware that here is one of the most important hormone glands in our body. Here, the pituitary, it's beautiful. It cops a lot of flack. When we get stressed, this cops it. It cops it, it stops working how it should. And so we really need to make sure that we're nourishing it, not only through food and through supplements and through fat soluble vitamins, but through our lifestyle. We need to be acknowledging that rest, restoring is one of the only things we can do to protect and restore our brain. It's such a vital organ, and really just giving it some downtime using it in the right ways is one of the best things for our brain. So I would say, look on Buddhify, look on Headspace, look on Calm app, and you want to be doing about, starting off about 3 to 10 minutes of meditation a day. Don't worry if your mind's going off everywhere and you're thinking all the time. Just, it's fine. That's how we all start. So just go with that and go with the flow and just get into a nice habit of doing it every day. So those would be the best way to, the most simplest ways to balance out that estrogen in your body and balance out that testosterone. Things you could be doing that might be causing different balance in your hormones and a balance that's not suitable for you is if maybe you're estrogen dominant and you're doing things like eating soy. Soy might cause a bit of an issue if you're estrogen dominant. It can cause the estrogen to go higher. Maybe even drinking too much licorice tea could cause an issue with estrogen. There's all these little things that could be culminating. So definitely just have a look at your environment, have a look what you're doing diet-wise, and see if you can tweak it so it can support your hormone balance. But definitely for now, if you are suffering from anxiety, the first thing you should do is do your cycle, track your cycle. Track your moods through the month, track how you're feeling, track when you ovulate, and then give your anxiety 1 out of 10 and just see what it's related to. If it's happening mid-cycle, it's most likely related to estrogen dominance. If it's happening at the latter half of your cycle when you've got your period, it's probably that progesterone dropping out. So just have a look at that and look at what's happening. And in the meantime as well, taking out foods like wheat, that will help, reducing sugar, balancing your blood sugar, having 3 wonderful meals a day. That's also going to help with symptoms because that nourishes your nervous system. And then of course wonderful magnesium. So you could do a high dose magnesium actually see how you go on a high dose magnesium. So you could do, say, for 7 days, you could take 4 grams of magnesium in divided doses. 2 grams of magnesium, sorry. 2 grams of magnesium in divided doses over 7 days. See how it makes you feel. See how you feel on that, because that can really reset your nervous system if it really needs that magnesium. So just be careful with the magnesium. Don't take it all at once because you can get loose bowel motions. So just take it in divided doses through the day and see if that helps to reset your nervous system, because it really can. It can settle it down quite quickly and just, and ping it back into how it should be. So those kind of things can help as well. So that's a wonderful, so Naomi, that's a wonderful, so calcium D-glucarate is a wonderful supplement of getting estrogen, particularly helping the gut to remove estrogen. And actually something that I didn't mention, but Naomi's just rightly said, she's on zinc and magnesium. So calcium is wonderful. Low zinc can also cause estrogen dominance. So there's a number of different things that can cause estrogen to build up in our system. And I think one of the biggest is a gene called COMT, which actually stops our gallbladder from doing its job properly. So working on the gallbladder is very important, but also the gut, and that's where calcium D-glucarate comes in. So it actually helps to restore the gut to actually detox the estrogen that way. And what zinc will do, zinc will stop us from stop all the conversions going into the estrogen. So zinc will kind of like buffer the other hormones and keep them where they are. And then magnesium is great. And if you do suffer from the anxiety or any kind of anxiety around that cycle, going higher on the magnesium is definitely something that's a good idea, magnesium, and then adding in some extra calcium. So those are great supplements for estrogen dominant. But always work on the gallbladder, because the gallbladder ultimately is your best friend. And if you don't have a gallbladder, get that liver working. Get the liver so it's producing more bile to remove everything out. Because that's the idea of that bile. Keep getting it out, moving it out through the gut. And so you get this nice process going and nothing gets bogged down. So that would be my takeaway. When it comes to your hormones, look at your progesterone, look at your estrogen, track your cycle, and just see when that anxiety, just see when those panic attacks come on. you know, and then you can look at you can look at your hormones and manage your anxiety from there. Yeah, methionine is beautiful. So methionine is a wonderful amino acid that again helps. It's like it's a donor for detoxification. So our liver goes through many different cycles of detoxification. I don't know if I've talked about this, but I can talk about it in one. We've got sulfation. Sulfation is where we use sulfur. So our liver uses sulfur to detoxify. Sulfur is one of the best detoxifying agents, and that's why Epsom salt baths are so good. Also taking magnesium sulfate to detox, all those kind of things. So sulfur, and that's why sulfur vegetables is good. They're kind of a donor. Same as methionine, that goes in and it's a donor for the liver to do some processes. So, I mean, the liver and the gallbladder and giving them what they need to go through particular processes is very, very important. When we've got MTHFR or when we've got COMT, what happens essentially is some of those processes get bogged down and they get stuck, and so we need to give them a helping hand, and methionine gives it a little bit of a helping hand. And definitely when you're doing any extra detoxification, Naomi, is to take a milk thistle just to bolster the liver and support the liver, so that the liver enzymes, which normally do elevate when we've got MTHFR, we want to keep those liver enzymes down. Perfect. You see, and I suspect, oh, that's wonderful. Do you think, that's interesting, are you taking anything else for the MTHFR, or do you suspect it's just has it been since taking the methionine that's helped with your anxiety for the MTHFR, Naomi? That's a really interesting, because I don't think you're not taking any Bs, you're not taking any NAC, so you're taking estrogen support and you're taking methionine, and that's helped with the anxiety. That just goes to show that just taking a few simple things can help enormously. It's also interesting, this is on a different subject from hormones, but you look at toxins. If you've got MTHFR or if you've got COMT and suddenly you're hit with ill health or you're hit with anxiety, have a look at what's going on around you. Has there been a pest spray outside? Have you suddenly done a home renovation? Are your next door neighbours doing a home renovation? Did you get a new car? Did you get a new mattress? Because what essentially happens when we've got MTHFR or COMT is those subtle processes in our bodies can get inhibited by toxins in the environment. So we might not even know. And who knows how much we are getting affected by other testing, nuclear testing in other places, all these kind of testing that's going on of chemicals or whatever. So hydroxy B12. So Naomi's just said she's got MTHFR. Anxiety is we're getting off the hormone track here, but it's all kind of interrelated. So Naomi's just said she's got MTHFR. She suffers from anxiety. Anxiety is one of the telltale signs of MTHFR, along with fibromyalgia, as long as other issues. And so what Naomi's been taking is she's been taking things for the estrogen, methionine for the liver, and then extra B12 along with folinic acid. So she's been taking those together to help with the MTHFR. What the B12, the hydroxy B12 and the folinic acid are helping is they're helping those processes to detox estrogens, to detox hormones, to detox toxins, and reduce homocysteine in her body, which ultimately has helped her with the anxiety. So it's nice that you've got relief from those, Naomi, and I'm really pleased you got relief from that, because it's just a few simple things that can help. So we got onto a little bit of a different topic, Kelly. MTHFR it's a genetic issue that affects our overall detoxification in the body. So some people that show positive for this genetic SNP, this genetic anomaly, they can actually have issues with the methylation cycle. So they can have issues excreting urea. They can have issues with homocysteine, issues with utilizing B12 and B9 and other B vitamins. And so sometimes these people, as Naomi rightly said, they have to take specific vitamins which assist in this system to move along and help your liver to detox, help your gallbladder to detox, and help those processes in the body. It's kind of people are getting tested for it now because it's seeming like a bit of a big issue. And I would suspect one of the reason it's a big issue now is because we are overexposed to so many different things. Not only that, but we're also quite stressed as a society, and so we're getting these things pop up, these different kind of health issues pop up. Oh, thank you, Naomi. That's very kind of you. It's really interesting once you start looking into it. So I'm really glad that you got some you got some help there. But I would say to anybody, wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I would say to anybody that's had a chronic health issue, anyone that's had chronic anxiety, anyone that's had chronic weight problems, doesn't shift no matter what they do, anybody that's had chronic heavy painful periods for years and they're not sure how to get rid of it, anybody that's had chronic fibromyalgia, those chronic conditions, to figure out the root cause, to figure out what's going on, because it does mean there might be something in the back that's going on. So you can see a GP, you can see a naturopath, you can see a holistic GP to get tested for certain things that are quite common when it comes to those chronic diseases. And in the best case scenario, you know, you just make a few tweaks and you can get a good result as Naomi. So it's really important, and it can really change your health and change your life and, you know, your kind of standard of living as well. So I'm really pleased. Thanks so much for sharing that. It's nice when you hear stories like that. Really, really is nice. And hopefully you'll be inspiration, Naomi, for other people on here that might be suffering from fibromyalgia or might be suffering from anxiety and haven't really figured out where it's coming from or what to do next. So I hope you all enjoyed today's session. I've got a few people that have asked me questions about what we can talk about next. Someone's asked me about low libido. We've had lots of people wanting more on MTHFR. So over the next coming weeks, I'll just let you know what's coming up, and if it's of interest, just pop on or pop your question below. So I hope you found today interesting, and let me know how it goes. If you didn't get anything, you know, the one thing I hope you got out of today was tracking your cycle and working out what's going on and what you can do from there. And of course, the second thing, if you've got any chronic issues that just aren't going away, they're just sitting around, I think it's time to dig a little bit deeper and try and figure out what is going on. So thanks so much for joining me, everybody. Have a wonderful day. And Naomi, thanks so much for sharing that. It just, it's great to hear that. It's great to hear when people have these beautiful, positive outcomes. It just makes me so happy. So have a lovely day. Take care, everyone. Bye.